through how I use Formula Black to get to a recommendation for a daily report. Pre-match, first of all, but also incorporating some kind of in-play strategies. The main league that I concentrate on, because it's been the most profitable for me for the last 5 or 6 years, is Serie A. I always start my analysis on match data. I think in any of the leagues that we cover, which it's quite simple in the Prem sometimes, but even in the example we showed before where Liverpool were had the highest number of over goals games in the last 20 matches, that doesn't stick out to most people when they know. I mean, I watched Liverpool recently, yeah, they're scoring a lot more goals, they're playing better football, but really, are they the highest scoring team in the league? Or in their highest number of goals in their games? So match data gives you a great view of the league. And I think spending half an hour to an hour on any league, you can get a good idea of what teams are strong at in those leagues. And there are many leagues, and for instance, the summer leagues are starting up pretty soon. I mean, the Irish League is 6 games in already. I think the Scandinavian leagues are about 4 or 5 games in. Brazil are back at the end of May, probably my favourite summer league. The great thing about Brazil is that because it's such a huge country, there are bound to be massively strong home and away tendencies for some teams. I mean, they have to go on a 3,000-kilometre trek sometimes to get some of their games, and they play 2 or 3 times a week with all the intra-competitions they have. So I think you can make quite a good system by looking at teams that are strong at home. I can't remember the team that were Nautico last season. I think we tipped them up as a daily report pretty much, I don't know, in 15 of their 19 home games because they were just so strong, and they're not a great team by any means, and they would lose every week away, but it was profitable to back them at home all the time. And the reason was they were miles away from any other team. It meant that other teams had to go to travel to them. Okay, so looking at Serie A, so there's a very one-sided game tonight, which is between Juve and Pescara. I think the handicap's about minus 2.25 for Juve, so expecting a comfy win, even though they're likely to rest all their players. I want to look at a game for tomorrow. Probably my favourite Italian team, Udinese. And the reason I like Udinese is that they stick to their trends most of the time. Udinese are a constant fixture in Serie A, which are the games that we prefer to bet on because we have more data on those teams in terms of going back seasons. A lot of people think they're probably better than they are. I think a lot of people know of the name Udinese, but they never seem to do very well. They're always going to be about mid-table because of inconsistencies. If we look, our first look when we come to this table of Udinese versus Chievo, I don't know what we're thinking, but we're probably thinking that there's a fair difference in position, 9th to 15th, but in terms of points, there's not really much in it. This stage of the season as well, we've got 8 games to go. Udinese are 15 points off AC Milan. They're not catching them. They're also 8 points off Inter in for the Europa League spot, something that some Italian teams are, but about some aren't. They're probably not going to get either position. Equally, they're not going to go down. Chievo, we'd look at the 15th position and probably be a bit worried if we were a Chievo fan, but under closer inspection we see that they're 9 points clear of Siena. It would need both Siena and Genoa to go on a good run to catch them, but they're not safe yet, but I'd be very surprised if they go down from here. So the standard look is the home league, just the standard table that you'd get on everything. We've got PPG in here as well. The first sort you can do is just home and away. So this says which teams are good at home. So Udinese were 9th in the league, and they're also the 9th best home team this season. 7-7-1 at home. It's very good that they've only lost one, and in fact every team's lost at least one this season since. So they don't lose very often, but equally 7 draws is the highest in the division. So if we can sort that pretty easily by draws and see that only Palermo come close. On the away team, how Chievo, again, they're exactly the same. They're in 15th, which is where they were in the league table. So we'd say that these teams are about in the right position. On all of the tabs, actually, there's this eye function, indicator. If you hover over it, it's tooltips which helps you. So just a bit of tips how to use the software if you're ever stuck on anything. So they're always worth looking at. One of the tables that I like to look at are match goals. Now, as I said about Liverpool being the highest over and under goals teams, we can do exactly the same in Serie A. We can do it in any league we want. we see that this is the standard sort is on over 2.5 goals descending. We show that Fiorentina are by far in the lead for over 2.5 goals for any team in the league for the last 20 matches. And interestingly, I've tipped up over goals in Fiorentina's match against AC Milan tomorrow. It's the early game, so don't miss out on that. So just going across under over 1.5 goals all the way to over 3.5 goals. One height H plus is have you had more goals in the first half than the second half, and the same for 2H plus. So the high scoring half market is sometimes quite interesting. A lot of teams like to stay defensive in the first half and then open up, or they're often faced with teams that are doing that to them, that they're defending hard against them. Most teams that play against Juve are not going to come out and be attacking. Juve aren't going to break anyone down too quickly. Juve are quite happy, I would expect, to be level at the break 0-0 and then win the game 1 or 2-0 as they go on. It's proved successful the last couple of years. They're not going to suddenly change their ways. You do get deviations in goals, obviously, between whether you play at home or whether you play away. There's so this is the for away teams. We see that Chievo have had 10 under goals, 10 over goals in their last 20 away matches. Looking at the home teams, we see that Udi have also had 10 and 10. Can use a lot more of the tabs. I mean, 5-game form, which is one that's quoted by quite a lot of people, 5 or 6-game form. It's quite interesting. We see that both of them aren't playing that well really at the moment. Probably Chievo are playing around where they will play the whole season, 1.2 points a game. If they got that all season, they'd be comfortably staying up. They're probably going to get nearer 1 point a game. So they're playing okay. Udi just seem to have been drawing a couple of games lately. Again, we don't know whether those Udinese games are all away or all at home. Filter on home, see that they're actually a bit better, so moving up to about 10th. Chievo, 1-2, drawn none, lost 3 away from home. So you've got kind of idea of the game. If we have a look in the game notes at the bottom, this is a way of pretty much doing some of the pre-match query yourself. Udinese have won 13 out of 17 home matches against bottom half teams, while Chievo have lost by 2 or more goals in 5 out of 10 trips to middle third teams. Chievo have lost 6 out of 8 games away to middle third teams. So it's kind of putting us in the camp of an Udinese win. Now, there was nothing in the league tables that would suggest that Udi were value really at. Just having a look at the price, I think they're around 1.83 to win tomorrow. So I think you'd probably look at that and you'd probably think, actually, I'm not sure they're 1.8 now. I haven't seen enough to be convinced that I will back 1.8 shot on the match data alone. So we go to pre-match query and use the same filters that we did before. So this is just home and away matches since the start of last season. We actually see that Udinese have won 20 of 34 home matches, and Chievo have lost 19 of 34 away matches. So now we're kind of thinking that 1.8 is looking a bit better value. Delving further in the stats, Udi were very strong last season. They seem to have died off a bit, but they're not losing. I mean, they're playing some decent teams. 0-0 against Napoli is a decent result. 2 wins before that. So looking at Chievo, they're just not a good away team. They started with 6 away losses at the beginning of the season. Yes, they won 2-0 at Pescara in their last game, but that's nothing to write home about. So we probably want to do a bit further analysis. If you ever get too many queries on here, you can just close them down by clicking on the X. You've got IP, which is in play. It was an in-play query of the Norwich game. This is a pre-match query. So going back to pre-match query, I want to see how these teams do against similar teams. So we want to try and model this game as best as we can. See that Udi have had the same manager for quite a while now, certainly for Serie A, that's quite a while. So we can afford to go back for another season if we wanted to, but probably get a big enough sample if we consider that Chievo are a bottom half team. Everything we've looked at goes to show that they are a bottom half team. Calling Udinese a middle third team is probably fair this season. They finished 4th and 3rd in the last 2 seasons. As we've shown, they're probably not going to finish above 5th, so we can call them middle third for now. So we've got the same query on, but we're just looking at the games where they've previously met the right criteria. Now it becomes even stronger for our case for backing Udinese. So we look at the stats, and we've got that Udinese have actually won 13 of 17 games against bottom half teams, and they haven't lost any games. Now the four draws have been in their last 8 matches, but they're still undefeated. Chievo, on the other hand, have got two wins in their 10, but they've lost 7 times. Now, depending on the type of bettor that you are, some people will look at a 1.8 shot and think, fantastic, I can back that at 1.8. I quite like this. We see that the odds conversion is 1.31. They've won 76% of these matches. But you might want to look for a bit more value or just a higher price. What I tend to do here is look for how teams win. Usually 2 simple ways. I'll either look for them to get a win-win double result, or I'll look for them to beat the Asian handicap by taking a bit higher price. So instead of, I might want to look for Udi to win by 2 goals and get a price of, I don't know, something like 3.5 on the minus 1.5 handicap. So I'll start with Udinese. I'm looking at these games still. So we can see pretty much here that they're down the HT result column. There's a lot of dark blue W's. So they've been leading at half time in 11 of the 13 matches. Now you could be leading and not win it. So, but actually of the 11 half-time wins, 10 of them they've gone on to win anyway at full time, and they've actually got as many wins against bottom half teams as they had normal wins against everyone. So they kind of fit the criteria for a win-win, which with Udi at 1.8, if I just have a look, I'm pretty sure we could get slightly better than 2-1 on the half-time, full-time. 2-1 with 888. Probably get something similar with Betfair. But do Chievo match up with a similar trend? So I'm looking down, and they've had 5 half-time losses in their 7 defeats, and 5 loss doubles. So 50% loss, which is quite a good matchup. I think we'd be happy to say. Also look on the Asian handicap. Udi have won by 1 or more goals in 13 of their games. Chievo have lost by 2 or more goals. Sorry. So Udi have won by 2 or more goals in 6 out of 17, which isn't a great stat compared to their 10 wins. And Chievo have had exactly the same amount of losses. I wrote this game up yesterday, and I slightly preferred the outright win to the win-win. Udinese aren't scoring that many goals at the moment, and I think it could take them to after half-time. Saying that, I'm not too worried about Chievo. I can't see them doing too much damage. Depending on your knowledge of Italian football, you might know about Antonio Di Natale, who has been at Udinese for about 4 or 5 years and is always among one of the highest scorers in the division. We can actually examine how important he is by clicking on players, and then we're going to search for Italy and Udinese. The query we've got at the moment is the home matches, which, as we've shown, there seems to be a big enough disparity in these teams' home form versus their away form, certainly for Udi versus weaker teams, that makes it worth looking just at the home matches. If we go to player summary, see that, and if we filter on goals, it's quite incredible that no one else in the Udinese team has scored more than four home goals since the start of last season, whereas Di Natale has scored 26. That's a stunning record. He's also scored in 21 of the 32 matches that he's played in. Now, on Odds Checker, if I go to anytime goal scorer on Udinese Chievo, he's obviously the favourite, but he's available at 2.25 with Sportingbet if you can get anything on with them. I expect that Sporting Index will also be covering this match. I don't think it's a TV game, it's just on at 2 o'clock tomorrow as a standard match. But it looks like there could be good value. I think you'd want to be backing, you'd probably prefer to back Di Natale to score than at 2.25 than just Udi to win at 1.8. It's one of my favourite bets, Di Natale to score, but he's going for a bit of a slump at the moment. We can see that he hasn't scored in 474 minutes, and there's such a correlation between when he's playing well and when Udi are playing well that's probably the reason why they haven't been doing so well of late. So that's kind of where I got to this match. You'll see if you go back to daily reports that this match, the Udinese win is posted up as a daily report tomorrow. I've actually got a few more Italian matches as well tomorrow. Like I said, over goals in Fiorentina that I like. Both attacking teams. It's a big game. The analysis that I've done on big games is that bookmakers tend to overreact to that, and they make the odds for unders a bit too short. Against that, I've gone for a completely different match here, Catania versus Cagliari. So the Fiorentina at AC Milan, they're much longer term trends. We're talking like over 20 games that they've been at the kind of 65% mark for over goals. Catania Cagliari, the two main kind of strengths for that is that both teams are very safe at the moment, don't have much to play for, and have loosened up a lot lately. And because of that, both have had over goals in 4 of their last 5 home matches. Going down, one of my favourite bets of the weekend, Duisburg versus Sandhausen in Bundesliga Division 2, over 2.5 goals at a very nice 1.9 kind of price. Liverpool, a win-win versus West Ham. It's odds on, but Liverpool playing a lot better. Carroll's out tomorrow. West Ham came to Chelsea. I saw that game and they were terrible. I think they could really struggle tomorrow. I think Liverpool will thrash them. Getafe, Atletico Madrid. We've gone for a long shot here. Getafe to win. Getafe have beaten Barcelona and Real Madrid at home in the last 2 seasons. They're a decent team. A derby match. Atletico are struggling away from home. One of the key things that we found in this game tomorrow is that Arda Turan is out injured. He's missed 21 of 67 games since the start of last season, and their win rate has fallen from 57% to 38%. He's a definite key player. I think most people would just say Falcao and no one else for Atletico. It's not true. They just score a lot fewer goals when he plays, and he's the heartbeat of the team in the middle. So if your weekend's going well and you want to go for a bumper win, Getafe at 3-1 tomorrow could make it a very good weekend.